The power of thinking. The old man sat by the window every morning before the sun fully rose. The world outside was quiet, wrapped in soft gray light. Birds rested on electric wires, and the streets below were empty except for a stray dog searching for warmth. Inside the small room, silence ruled, but it was not an empty silence. It was the kind that listens. The old man's name was Elias Rowan. His hair was silver, his beard thick and untamed, and his eyes carried the weight of many years. People in the town often thought he looked tired, maybe even weak. They did not know that inside his mind lived a strength stronger than any muscle. Elias believed in one thing more than anything else: thinking deeply before acting. He had learned this lesson long ago, when life had taken everything from him, except his thoughts. A boy with big questions, Elias had not always been an old man sitting alone. Once, he was a curious boy who asked too many questions. He was born in a poor village where most people worked with their hands and measured success by how tired they were at the end of the day. Thinking doesn't fill the stomach, his father used to say. But Elias noticed something different. He noticed that the people who suffered most were not always the poorest, they were the ones who acted without thinking. He watched men fight over small insults, farmers plant crops at the wrong time, and families break apart because of words spoken too fast. At night, while others slept, Elias lay awake asking himself questions. Why do people repeat the same mistakes? Why does anger feel powerful but leave weakness behind? Why do some quiet people change the world while loud ones fade away? Those questions became his secret teachers. The first failure: when Elias was 20, he left his village to find success in the city. He rushed into business deals without reflection. He spoke when he should have listened. Within 2 years, Elias lost everything: his savings, his small home, and his pride. One cold night, sitting on the steps of a closed shop, Elias felt defeated. His hands shook from hunger, but his mind was wide awake. "This is not the end," he whispered to himself. "This is a lesson." That night, he made a decision that would change his life. He decided he would never act without thinking deeply first. The discipline of thought. Elias began to treat thinking like a craft. Every morning, before doing anything else, he sat quietly and examined his thoughts. He asked himself, "Why do I feel this way? What fear is guiding my decision? What happens if I wait instead of rushing?" At first, it was painful. Thinking honestly forced him to face his mistakes. But slowly, clarity replaced confusion. He learned that anger is loud but weak, while calm thinking is silent but powerful. He learned that most problems grow because people react instead of reflect. A quiet rise. Years passed. Elias worked simple jobs but made careful decisions. He saved slowly, invested wisely, and trusted thoughtfully. People overlooked him because he spoke little. But when he did speak, his words carried weight. When conflicts arose, Elias listened. When others panicked, he paused. When faced with failure, he thought, not emotionally, but deeply. Slowly, his life changed. He became known as someone people came to for advice. Not because he was loud or impressive, but because his guidance worked. The mind, Elias often said, creates strength before the hands ever move. The test of wisdom 1 year, a crisis struck the town. A factory that employed hundreds was about to shut down. Panic spread quickly. People protested, shouted, blamed. Leaders argued. Nothing changed. Elias watched silently. Then he requested one meeting. While others spoke emotionally, Elias spoke calmly. He did not accuse. He did not promise miracles. He simply presented a plan, carefully thought out, step by step. He had studied the problem quietly for weeks. His solution saved the factory. That day, people saw something they had never noticed before: thinking had power. Teaching the next generation as Elias aged, he chose not to chase more success. Instead, he began teaching young people. They asked him questions about money, failure, fear, and purpose. But his answers were always simple. Before you act, think. Before you speak, think. Before you quit, think deeper. One student once asked, "Isn't thinking too much a weakness?" Elias smiled. "No," he replied. "Thinking deeply is the strongest thing you can do. It builds courage without noise." The final lesson now old, Elias sat by the window every morning, watching the world rush past. People still hurried. They still reacted quickly. They still believed speed was strength. But Elias knew the truth. He knew that every great change begins in silence. That thought shapes destiny before action ever begins. That wisdom grows not from loud opinions, but from quiet reflection. And as the sun rose higher, lighting his small room, Elias closed his eyes, not in sleep, but in thought. Because even at the end of life, thinking remained his greatest power. Moral of the story: the world rewards speed, noise, and reaction, but lasting success belongs to those who think deeply. Before action, there is thought. Before strength, there is silence. Before success, there is clarity. Never underestimate the power of